The old, rusted spotting scope was nothing but junk to most folks at Fort Dawson, just a battered relic. All pitted brass and scuffed glass, left forgotten in some back corner. But the day Captain Richardson spotted the faint inscription along its rim, 297 M Golf 1991, he froze. Blood turning cold. That wasn't just some number. That was legend. And the quiet recruit who owned it? She wasn't just another face in uniform. She was carrying the ghost of the military's most mythical sniper. On the rifle range that morning, the air was thick with gunpowder and the early desert sun, warming everything up fast. Emma Holloway, still getting used to the itch of her new uniform, slung her old equipment bag over her shoulder and felt the familiar weight of her grandfather's scope bump against her side. Other recruits clustered nearby, nerves on edge about the marksmanship test, all their shiny new gear practically screaming money. Tyler Brooks, son of a colonel, bragged about his custom scope, dropping a price tag that could buy a used car. Rachel Martinez, who'd done a tour at some private shooting academy, rattled off credentials like they were Girl Scout badges. Michael Chun was already explaining the math behind his high-tech rangefinder. Emma grew up different. No summer camps. No expensive tech. Her grandfather had handed her a rifle and that battered old scope and taught her how to read wind, sun, and the subtle shift of grass in the Montana backwoods. For her, skill always mattered more than the tool. You have to see what others miss. Her grandfather used to say, pressing that scope into her hands when she was just 12, and she'd kept it with her ever since. When Sergeant Wallace started barking orders, the usual military show kicked off. Wallace was old school, believed that only two things matter: a rifle that works and a soldier who knows how to use it. Pairs, positions, distances today was about fundamentals. As Emma pulled out her old spotting scope, laughter rippled through the group. Brooks snorted. "You really gonna use that antique?" he said, voice all sharp edges and privilege. "Looks like it belongs in a museum." Rachel wasn't as mean, but her pity stung just the same. "That thing probably can't even focus." Emma just smiled tight and kept setting up. She got paired with Chena, polite guy, but you could tell he was skeptical. "You can borrow my backup," he offered, pointing to his bag loaded with more gear than a small recon team. No shame in using better equipment. Emma just shook her head. "I'll stick with what I know." At 200 meters, the other recruits' digital scopes flashed wind speed, temperature, and all sorts of data. But when Emma dropped behind her grandfather's scope, it was all about instinct and the kind of reading you can't teach in a classroom. She watched heat waves shimmer, caught the twist of grass in the breeze, tracked the mirage. Her calls were dead on, even if the others didn't believe it at first. Winds coming for your 3 o'clock, 7 miles an hour gusting, she told Chun, ignoring the doubtful glances. The bullet landed just left of center. Not perfect, but right where her call said it would hit. As the distances stretched 400, 600, 800 meters, fancy gear started to fail. Mirage made targets dance. Data got less useful. But Emma, steady as a mountain, read the conditions and delivered, shot after shot. Suddenly, Brooks and the others weren't laughing. During a break, Brooks sat down next to her. No smugness left. "How does that old thing beat scopes 10 times as expensive?" Emma just shrugged. "Hours in the wind with my grandfather. You learn to listen." By 800 meters, even Reynolds, a top marksman, was taking notice. When Emma hit dead center at that distance, the range got real quiet. Captain Richardson, who'd been lurking nearby, finally walked over. "Walk me through your process," he said, tone all business. Emma explained, "It's not just numbers. It's reading the entire environment, predicting, adapting, trusting the feel." Richardson nodded, asked to see her scope, and that's when he found the engraving. His face changed as he read the inscription, and his voice dropped. "Where did you get this?" Emma answered, "It was my grandfather as Joseph Holloway." The way Richardson looked at her said he recognized the name. 5th Special Forces. Gulfa? Emma nodded. He said he was just logistics. Richardson almost laughed. That's what they called it back then. Later that day, Emma was summoned to Richardson's office. She found him there with a silver-haired colonel, who introduced himself as Victor Hayes. When they looked at her grandfather's scope, Hayes called him by a name she'd never heard, Stillwater. Turns out, Josiah Holloway was one of the best snipers the U.S. ever had. His record shot, 297 meters, had saved a squad in Desert Storm. But the mission was classified. He passed this on to you for a reason. Hayes said, you got what he called the eye it can't be taught. Hayes invited her into a secretive, elite program called Prairie Fire. 3 weeks later, Emma found herself stepping off a van in the North Carolina mountains at the Prairie Fire Facilitino insignias. No names, just government property, no trespassing signs, and the hum of something big under the surface. Inside, she met the new team, Marines, SEALs, Army snipers, all with something extra in their brains. That rare knack for reading conditions that computers can't replicate. Even Michael Chun was there, recruited for his analytical mind. Training was brutal. Pre-dawn runs, technical lectures, and shooting drills that stretched their abilities to the breaking point. Emma's grandfather's techniques, the whisper method, gave her an edge. At 1,000 meters, where wind data becomes more guesswork than science, she ignored digital readouts and just watched the world, making mental maps of air movement and shooting true. Even Reynolds, the team hotshot, had to admit she was different. But at 1,500 meters, her first shot missed. And for a second, all those doubts came flooding in. Was the Holloway legacy just a myth? Reynolds' whisper stung. Stillwater must be turning in his grave. That night, during a walk through the Memorial Garden, Master Sergeant Garetta Man, who'd served with her grandfather, reminded Emma, your granddad missed his first shot at 1,500 too. It's how you respond that matters. Garrett promised to teach her the heart of the whisper method, quieting the mind, trusting the process, letting instinct take over when everything else falls away. In the days that followed, Emma found her footing. She discovered a hidden notebook in the scope, her grandfather's handwritten secrets on wind, doubt, and the art of surrendering to the shot. With Garrett's guidance, she learned to listen to the world, not fight her fear, but accept it and move past it, finding that stillness at the core of the moment. Her shooting improved. So did her confidence. Weeks later, Prairie Fire was called on for a mission, a high-value target in Afghanistan. 647 meters away, over 2 miles. No digital scope, no drone, no backup, just Emma, her team, and the battered old scope. She lay in the dust, heartbeat slow, reading the wind, temperature, the song of the mountains. When her moment came, she pressed the trigger, and for 4 long seconds, the bullet flew, cutting through years of doubt, the legend of her grandfather, and every expectation anyone had ever had. The shot landed perfect. Mission accomplished. Reynolds offered a quiet handshake. Your grandfather would be proud. When it was all over, Colonel Hayes handed Emma a small wooden box, a secret medal given to only a handful of Prairie Fire graduates. He asked her to stay on as an instructor, to pass on the legacy of Stillwater and the whisper method. Emma agreed, knowing now that the true gift her grandfather left wasn't just a skill, but a way of seeing the world, a trust in instinct, in history, in the whisper of the wind. And that old, rusted scope, it would keep teaching new generations what it means to listen, to adapt, and to believe.